A baby is born, right now, lungs filled, heart beating, eyes open for the first time. And nobody in that room is willing to say what is actually true. That baby might get cancer. That baby might be beaten to death. That baby might starve. That baby might be raped before they are old enough to understand what is happening to them. That baby might grow up, work 40 years, and die alone in a bed that smells like antiseptic with no one holding their hand. And everyone in that delivery room is smiling, taking photos, crying happy tears, using words like miracle and blessing and gift. Nobody is saying what they just did. They created a person who did not ask to exist and handed them a life that might destroy them, and they called it love. Let us be brutally, uncomfortably, unflinchingly honest in a way that almost nobody is willing to be. When a baby is born, nobody knows what they are creating. Nobody. There's no preview, no trial run, no ability to look ahead at what this specific consciousness will face in this specific world and make an informed decision. There is only a wheel, and the wheel spins, and every possible human outcome is on that wheel. Every single one, from one end of experience to the other. And we spin it anyway, happily, eagerly. We decorate nurseries and host celebrations and take photos of the wheel being spun and post them online, and people hit the heart button. Let me tell you what is actually on that wheel. That baby being born right now might grow up and by age 4 diagnosed with leukemia. They will spend what should be their childhood years in a hospital. They will know the smell of chemotherapy before they know the smell of cut grass. They will have needles in their arms before they have calluses on their hands from playing. They will watch their parents cry in hallways when the parents think they cannot be seen. They will not fully understand why everything hurts so much and why the adults around them look so afraid. And they might die. They might die before they ever understand what death is, before they have had a single experience they chose for themselves. What did that child do to deserve to be placed on that wheel? Nothing. They did nothing. They did not exist. They had no say. Someone else looked at the wheel and decided the spin was worth it and pulled the lever on behalf of a person who did not yet exist to have preferences. That baby might be born into a home where the father has fists that move faster than reason, where the sound of the front door opening at night means something terrible is about to happen, where a child learns before they can read that their body is not their own, that the people who are supposed to protect them are the source of the danger, where crying makes it worse and silence makes it worse, and there is no version of behavior that makes it stop. Some children die in those homes, their small bodies found days later, their names read out on news reports, while anchors use the word tragedy as though it is sufficient, as though a word can contain what happened to a person who was 6 years old and trusted the people who made them. Some survive those homes and spend the next 50 years trying to rebuild a nervous system that was shattered before it finished forming. The damage is not metaphorical. The brain of a child raised in chronic fear literally rewires itself differently. The architecture changes. The threat response becomes permanent background noise. You cannot simply decide to stop being afraid when fear was the primary language spoken to you before you could speak back. Was their birth a gift? To whom? To the parents who wanted someone to love? To the culture that needed another body? The child did not receive a gift. The child received a sentence, and nobody asked them if they would accept it. That baby being born right now might grow up in a country where bombs fall on schools, not in history, right now, tonight, on this planet, while people in other parts of that same planet are arguing about which stroller to buy and whether the nursery should be yellow or green. There are children learning to read the sound of aircraft, learning which sound means run and which sound means it is already too late. Children who have seen things that trained soldiers are given counseling for, except nobody is giving these children counseling. Nobody is asking how they are processing it. They are simply inside it, small and unprotected, because they were born into the wrong geography at the wrong moment in history. They did not choose the geography. They did not choose the moment. Someone chose to bring them into existence without any ability to guarantee the existence would be livable. That baby might be born into famine, real famine, not hunger, famine. the kind where the stomach stops sending signals after a while because the body learns that the signals accomplish nothing, where a mother has to decide which child to feed because there is genuinely not enough for all of them, where children's bodies consume themselves slowly, visibly, while the mechanism of the world grinds forward indifferently. We know this is happening. We've known it for generations. It is not a secret. It is not a surprise. It is a documented, photographed, reported feature of the world into which we continue, without pause, to introduce new people who did not ask to be introduced. Here is what philosopher David Benatar said, and what almost no one could tolerate hearing. Bringing a person into existence is always a harm. Not sometimes, not in extreme circumstances, always. Because existence always contains suffering, guaranteed, unavoidable, built into the structure of being alive in a body in a world, and non-existence contains nothing. No cancer ward, no fists in the dark, no famine, no grief, no terror, no slow deterioration at the end. Nothing. And nothing cannot suffer from being nothing. This is the part that breaks people when they actually sit with it instead of reflexively rejecting it. The child who was never born does not lie awake missing their life, does not grieve the experiences they never had, does not feel deprived of love they never received. There is no subject. There is no consciousness sitting in absence experiencing the absence. There is nothing. And nothing is permanently, completely, and absolutely free from harm. Benatar built this into a precise philosophical argument. 4 scenarios. A person exists and feels pleasure. That is good. A person exists and feels pain. That is bad. A person does not exist and therefore feels no pain. That is good. Suffering has been prevented. A person does not exist and therefore feels no pleasure. That is not bad, because there is no one there to be deprived. The absence of pain is always good, even when there is no one to benefit from the absence. But the absence of pleasure is only bad if there is someone being deprived of it. In non-existence, there is no someone, no deprivation, no loss, just silence that costs nothing and harms no one. This asymmetry is the foundation, and once you genuinely understand it, not react to it, not dismiss it, but actually understand it, it does not go away. People say, but what about the good things? What about love? What about joy? What about the moments that make life beautiful? Here is the direct answer. Those things are real. Nobody is saying they are not real. A child can experience 20 years of love, genuine love, the best kind of love parents are capable of giving. And one night, that child can be in the wrong place when someone decides to pull a trigger, and everything ends. And that mother will spend the rest of her life broken in a way that nothing repairs. The 20 years of love do not balance that equation. The 20 years of love are precisely what makes the loss unbearable. The joy is not compensation for the suffering. The joy is what makes the suffering cost more, because you cannot lose what you never had, and the more someone has built, the more there is to destroy. This is not theory, this is how grief actually functions in a human being. You do not recover from catastrophic loss because good things came before it. The good things are the reason the loss is catastrophic. And we built the entire justification for creating new people on the premise that the possibility of those good things outweighs the guaranteed cost of pain. It does not outweigh it. It cannot, because the person being asked to pay was never consulted about the terms. Here is what we know with absolute certainty will happen to every single person born. Not maybe, not in bad cases, every person. Every person born will experience significant physical pain. Their body will hurt them, many times, in many ways. The body is not a reliable vessel. It breaks down, it develops conditions, it turns against its inhabitant. Chronic pain alone, pain that does not end, that is simply the permanent texture of waking up, affects hundreds of millions of people. They manage it, they work around it, they continue, but they did not choose it, and they cannot put it down. Every person born will watch someone they love cease to exist. That experience does not leave. It installs itself in a person and changes how they experience everything that comes after. The world looks different after you have watched someone you love disappear from it. The ground feels less solid. The permanence of everything becomes visible in a way it was not before. This happens to every person who lives long enough. It is guaranteed. Every person born will face the knowledge of their own death, not abstractly, actually. There comes a point in every human life where death stops being a concept and becomes a fact about you specifically, where you understand that you will cease, that everything you are, everything you remember, everything you love, every version of yourself you have built across decades will stop. The universe will continue. It will continue as though you were never here, because eventually you were never here. Sitting with that reality is one of the heaviest things a human mind is asked to do, and every mind is asked to do it. This is not the worst case. This is the floor. This is the baseline. This is what every human life contains before cancer, before abuse, before violence, before war, before famine, before the thousand specific catastrophes that fall on specific people with complete indifference to whether they deserved it. Think about the children who were beaten to death. Not as a statistic, as individuals. Each one was born, was held, was given a name, had a face that someone photographed in a hospital room while people used words like miracle. Each one had a nervous system capable of experiencing fear and pain. Each one, in their final hours, experienced something that no living creature should experience: betrayal by the people who made them, pain beyond their capacity to understand, and the absolute absence of rescue. They deserved none of it. There was nothing they could have done differently. They were small and they were dependent, and the people responsible for them were broken in ways that the children paid for. If those children had never been born, they would not be missing anything. They would not be sitting in a void wishing they had experienced the life that was taken from them. They would be nothing. And being nothing, they would be safe, permanently, completely, without any possibility of what actually happened to them happening. We do not talk about this directly enough. We talk about child abuse as a social problem to be solved, as a policy issue, as a failure of systems, and it is all of those things. But it is also the direct consequence of bringing people into existence in a world where we cannot control what those people will face, where the same act of creation that might produce a loved and protected child might produce a child who dies at the hands of the people who are supposed to love them. And we keep spinning the wheel. The question nobody asks at a baby shower: what if this person grows up and wishes they had not been born? Not as a passing dark thought on a bad day, as a sustained, considered, deeply felt conclusion about their own existence. What if the infant being passed around the room, being held and photographed and celebrated, becomes a person who sits alone at 30 years old and understands with complete clarity that they do not want to continue? It happens. It happens to people whose parents loved them, to people who had childhoods that looked fine from the outside, to people who had access to help and still could not find solid ground beneath them. The weight of being alive, the relentlessness of it, the way it never stops requiring things from you, the way suffering accumulates in a person over decades, becomes for some people simply more than the structure of a mind can hold. When that happens, the question is not, did we love them? Of course the parents loved them. The question is, did we have the right to place them here? To take a being that did not exist, that was not suffering, not missing anything, not waiting for anything because it had no existence in which to wait, and install it into a world we absolutely knew contained suffering of the most extreme and random and unpreventable kind, and hand it that existence without any possibility of consent? The answer, when you look at it without the anesthetic of culture and biology and tradition, is no. We did not have that right. We exercised it anyway. We called it love. Why do people actually have children? Not the answer they give, the actual answer. Fear of mortality, the biological terror of ceasing to exist and leaving no trace. A child is the one thing that feels like it defeats time. A piece of you continues, your face in a smaller face, your name going forward. This is not altruism. This is the most primal form of self-preservation available to a creature that knows it will die. Loneliness, the desire for a relationship that cannot leave, that is totally dependent, that will love unconditionally because it has no choice but to love the people it depends on for survival. Adult relationships are uncertain and require maintenance and can end. A child feels like a guaranteed connection. This is true. It is also not about the child. Social pressure, the accumulated weight of family expectation, cultural narrative, the quiet and relentless message delivered from every direction that a life without children is an incomplete life. People have children because the alternative requires explaining yourself forever, because everyone around them is doing it, and the social cost of not doing it is real and exhausting. Accident. A significant portion of humans currently alive were not planned, were the result of failed contraception or a single unexamined decision or a relationship that neither party had fully thought through. They exist because the mechanism produced them, not because anyone sat down and made a conscious ethical choice to introduce a new person to the world. None of these motivations center the child, not one. The child is a solution to something the parents needed solved. And then the child arrives, and the parents love them, genuinely, sometimes completely. And that love is real, but love is not the same as justification. You can love someone you have harmed. Parents do it every day. The most common defense against this argument is, my life has been worth it. I would choose to be born if I could choose again. Benatar anticipated this too. Your brain cannot evaluate your life objectively. Your brain was built by evolution to keep you alive and functioning. It was not built to give you an honest accounting of how much you were suffering. It minimizes pain in memory and amplifies recollections of positive experiences. It generates hope in circumstances that do not objectively warrant hope, because an organism that sees reality with complete clarity tends to stop trying. The suffering you carry right now, the background noise of anxiety, dissatisfaction, the gap between what you imagined your life would be and what it actually is, the things you do not let yourself think about directly. You have stopped hearing it because it has been the constant sound of your existence for so long that you have accepted it as the neutral state, as normal, as just what being alive is. If you could strip away that adaptation, if you could see your life with the eyes of someone who had not been conditioned since birth to accept its contents as ordinary, you might be shocked by what you are carrying, by what everyone around you is carrying. All of it normalized, all of it adapted to, all of it generating the performance of fine. This is what Benatar calls the Polyanna effect. People are not accurately reporting how good their lives are. They are reporting how well they have adapted to lives that contain significant suffering. These are not the same thing. And we use the adapted report as evidence that existence is worth it, when the adapted report is simply evidence that humans are very good at continuing. There is a silence that gets no memorial. Nobody builds monuments to the suffering that did not happen. Nobody marks the day a potential life of chronic illness simply did not begin. Nobody writes the name of the child who was never born into violence, never handed to parents who would break them, never placed into a body that would spend its decades in pain. We only memorialize what we can see, what exists, what leaves behind people who grieve it. Non-existence leaves nobody behind. There is no grief. There is no ceremony. There is nothing to mark because there is no absence that anyone experiences. And we have interpreted this silence as proof that non-existence is empty of value, when it might actually be proof of its completeness. The child never born into a war zone is not missing the war zone. The child never born into famine is not missing the hunger. The child never handed to parents who would beat them is not sitting in absence wishing they could have received the beating instead. There is no child. There is only the permanent, unassailable safety of never having been placed in harm's way. The greatest protection ever offered to a person is also the only one that cannot be acknowledged because the person protected cannot exist to acknowledge it. But the protection is real. The suffering that did not happen is real prevented suffering. The pain that was never felt was genuinely spared. The cancer that never developed in a body that never existed was a real cancer that never happened to a real person. The fact that nobody can be grateful for it does not make it nothing. It makes it the purest possible good, done without any possibility of reward, without any recipient to thank you, without any social acknowledgement that anything was done at all. The child that is never born never starves, never develops the disease that takes 10 years to kill them, never sits in a classroom being told they are stupid by someone with the power to make them believe it, never loves someone who leaves, never builds something and watches it collapse, Never carries the specific grief of a parent who outlives their child, or a child who watches their parent deteriorate, or a person who simply outlives everyone they loved and spends the last years alone in a world emptied of the people who made it livable. Never face the 3 a.m. of the mind. That specific hour when the defenses are down and everything unresolved comes back, and the darkness is not outside, but inside, generated by the very consciousness that has no choice but to keep producing it. Never has to make peace with their own ending. Never has to look at everything they were and accept that it will stop. Never has to do the impossible work of finding a way to die that does not feel like the annihilation of everything they ever were. None of it. Not a moment of it. Not because they lost something, because they were never placed in the position of losing it. This is not despair. Despair is still inside existence, still suffering from suffering. This is something different. This is what it looks like to examine the most fundamental assumption humans make, that life is a gift, that birth is sacred, that creating a new person is an act of love, and ask whether the assumption survives contact with reality. For most of human history, asking this question was not permitted. Not by religion, which needed believers, not by states, which needed soldiers and workers and taxpayers, not by culture, which needed the story of life as inherently valuable to keep functioning. The question was sealed off, declared morbid, treated as a symptom of damage rather than a product of clear thinking. But the question does not go away because it is inconvenient. Every child born into abuse, every person who develops an illness that defines and diminishes their entire existence, every human being who spends their life working in conditions that destroy them for outcomes that never materialize, every person who reaches the end and would not choose it again, every parent who watches their child suffer and understands in their body that they cannot fix it, cannot take it back, cannot undo the spin of the wheel. They are all part of the answer to the question nobody wants to ask out loud. Was it right to bring them here? And if the honest answer, the answer stripped of evolutionary anesthetic and cultural programming, and the desperate need for life to mean something, is anything other than a clear and unconditional yes, then we owe it to intellectual honesty and to basic human decency to sit with that, to stop calling the wheel sacred, to stop calling the spin love. The child who was never born into this world never suffered from being in it. In a world like this one, that might be the only guarantee worth anything. This channel is a rare space where truth is not sweetened, where courage is not blind faith, but facing reality with clear eyes. If this resonated with you, if something in it named a weight nobody around you is willing to acknowledge, you were never alone in that. The loneliness was never evidence you were wrong. It was evidence that most people have agreed, quietly and collectively, not to say certain things out loud. If you want to keep this space alive, become a member. If a single gesture feels right, there is super thanks. But honestly, just being here is already more than most people are willing to do. And if you recognize this weight in someone else, share it with them. Because the worst loneliness is not being alone in a room. It is believing nobody in the world thinks the way you think. Maybe by sharing this, you become the relief someone has been waiting for. Thank you for listening until the end. Thank you for existing, despite everything this video just laid out. Thank you for thinking.